Hello, welcome back to our online class. Now we study on contextualizations. Last semester we studied about contextual theology of mission. There we focus more on the philosophical aspect and theological aspect of contextual theology. But in this semester we focus more on strategies of contextualizations. So our subject is contextualization in mission. In the first class, we already discussed the principles of contextualizations and the biblical basics and foundation of contextualizations and the mothers of contextualizations. Since we focus more on practical methods and practical strategies of contextualizations in the field, in this class, we focus more on practical the practical strategies of contextualizations. So it means how can we communicate contextually to non-Christians? How can we communicate the gospel contextually to Asian people and to African people and to the European people in their local context? So we are going to study countries by countries. I wish if we could have class in the university, I wish students to present your own country's conditions and your own country's communications of the gospel and the strategies. But because of these various conditions, we can conduct this class only in online. Therefore, first of all, I will focus contextualization in Myanmar. So, the gospel to Myanmar people contextualizations. Let me briefly introduce Myanmar. Myanmar has around 52 million populations, and Myanmar is composed of 8 major tribes, and which are subdivided into 135 ethnic groups and dialects. So there are many languages and many ethnic groups and many races in Myanmar. But among 8 major tribes, the Burma tribes are the majority in Myanmar. They compose 68% of the country populations. Next to Myanmar, the Xian people, the Karen people, Arakan people, Kachin and Chin and Kaya are the major tribes in Myanmar. About religions, only 6% are Christians. Almost 90% are Buddhist. Around 3% are Muslims, and only 1% of the country population is Hindus. I just want to briefly mention the religions and people in Myanmar. Only 6% are Christians, almost 90% are Buddhist adherents, and 3% are Islamic adherents, and only 1% are Hindus adherents. So in generally, we can say that almost 92% are the unreached or non-Christian people. Therefore, communicating the gospel to the Myanmar people or reaching the unreached people of Myanmar with the gospel of Jesus Christ is the unfinished task and the great commissions of our Lord and Christian mission organizations, churches, ministry, and individual Christians are responsible to reach these neighbors, our neighbors, with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So let me briefly mention the coming of the gospel to Myanmar. The gospel has come to Myanmar since 5 centuries ago. Throughout centuries, hundreds of Christian missionaries, both from Catholic and Protestant, have been working in Myanmar. They had a great effort to win the Myanmar people to faith in Jesus Christ. But till today, only 6% of the country's populations are adherents of Christianity. Around 93% of the country population remains unreached. Even though many missionaries have been working hard in Myanmar, the people are not won to Christ. So what are the reasons behind this issue? In other words, why it is so hard to win the Myanmar people to Christ? Here I make research and find out 3 main reasons. The first one is doctrinal contradictories. The first one is doctrinal contradictories. Doctrinal contradictories. What are the reasons behind this issue, or what are the hindrances to win the Myanmar people to Christ? So I make research and I find out 3 main reasons or issues. The first one I found out is doctrinal contradictories existed between Buddhism and the Gospel. The teaching of Buddhism and the teaching of the Gospel. And the second one is Buddhist nationalism. And the last one is the need to develop more effective strategies and methods of mission. The need to develop mission strategies and methods. So first of all, let us see doctrinal contradictories. In short, Buddhism is self-centered religions and Christianity is Christ-centered religions. Self-centered religions means to seek salvation or to seek enlightenment through self-effort. So actually Buddhism is a search for enlightenment through observing precepts and the Buddhist teachings. But Christianity is a personal relationship with the living God and to seek salvation by faith in the grace of God through the work of Jesus Christ. In other words, we can say the whole systems and teachings, belief and practice and values of Myanmar Buddhist can be summed up in the law of karma, that is work, self-effort. And the foundations of Christian faith, life and practice is grounded on God's grace. So it's all about grace. So this is the main contradictories in short. Dr. Minton Mons, the professor at Yangon Buddhist University, points out the vitality of karma in Myanmar Buddhism by describing the doctrine of karma as the essence of Buddhism. He mentions that the principles of karma and its effect is essential doctrine of Buddhism, and one can become a true Buddhist only when one understands and believes in karma and its effect. Let me repeat it. He correctly points out the vitality of karma in the Myanmar Buddhism by describing the doctrine of karma as the essence of Buddhism. He mentioned that the principles of karma and its effect is an essential doctrine of Buddhism, and one can become a true Buddhist only when one understands and believes in karma and its effect. That means Dr. Min Tim Mon identified Buddhism with karma. So he identified karma with Buddhism. Since the true identity of Myanmar Buddhists is found on the law of karma, the Buddhist people of Myanmar can be known as the Karmic people. Therefore, today in this class we will focus the gospel to Karmic people, contextual theology of mission in Myanmar. So let us continue the first issue. Doctrinal contradictories existed between Buddhism and the Gospel. Myanmar, a land of pagoda, a nation dominated by Theravada Buddhism for centuries, has been incredibly influenced by the belief of karma. For Myanmar people, karma is a way of life. It is their social, religious, and philosophical system of thought. All conditions and status of persons can be perceived in Myanmar Buddhist mind as the consequence and the result of the initial karma of that person. The key concept of Myanmar Buddhism is dependent co-originations. That means all things exist as network of interrelated connections and causes. All things exist as networks of interrelated connections and causes. In the concept of Myanmar Buddhism, there is no concept of supreme being or creator. All living beings came to exist by the force of their previous karma. Therefore, in Myanmar Buddhism, karma is the creator. The Bible's teachings of God's creation and the Bible teachings, God's creation of human being is unfair or inconsistent for the Buddhist people, which is evidenced by the existence of inequalities in human life. Therefore, religious and philosophical questions have been raised regarding the biblical concept of God's creations, God's dominion and salvation, such as if God is good and just, how could He create a world full of sufferings and inequalities? Why do the righteous people suffer? Why do some evil people possess well-being? Or why do the evil people enjoy a life of well-being, rich and wealth? For Myanmar Buddhism, the existence of inequities in human life and the existence of different social classes in human life and mysterious puzzles behind the righteous suffering and the problems of evil are not a matter of the creation of a supreme being or God, but rather they are the result and consequences of the initial karmic action. In the principles of karma, it is impossible to change or neutralize the good result or the consequences of a bad karma by the help of someone else. So in Buddhism, man is supreme. The Buddha taught that everyone must work out his or her own liberation. Thus, the idea of rewards and punishment from the Supreme Being, the concept of Christ's atonement for sinners, and the doctrine of grace are contradicted to the law of karma. The whole system of belief, practice, philosophy, social cultural patterns of the Myanmar Buddhism can be summed up in the law of karma, the law of cause and effects. But the foundations of Christian faith is grounded on God's grace. Definitely the existence of these contradictories is a major hindrance for winning the people to Christ in Myanmar. And the second hindrance is nationalism. The controversial beliefs or doctrines are not only hindrance in doing mission in Myanmar. The movement of Burmese nationalism and religious oppressions the movement of Burmese Buddhist nationalisms and religious oppressions are great hindrances or challenges to the Myanmar churches and mission organizations. Ever since the British colonizers invaded Myanmar in 1824, the first invasion, the Myanmar Buddhists strongly opposed Christianity as Western and colonial, the religions of British. Indeed, Theravada Buddhism was adopted as the state religion of Myanmar during King Anortha in 11th century, and it was defended and propagated both orally and writings by kings and monasteries throughout the following centuries. They strongly identified their nationality in their religions by saying to be a Burmese is to be a Buddhist. To be a Burmese is to be a Buddhist. They identify the race Burmese with religions Buddhists. The people who believe in other religions or the people who embrace other religions, especially Christianity, are considered as betrayers to own nationalities and own people. Betrayal to own nationality and own people. As Christianity had been opposed since colonial period, it became more marginalized and oppressed when the Myanmar gained its independence from the British colony. During the last 6 decades of military rule, Christianity had been marginalized and discriminated in various ways. Here Mr. Ling and Mr. Mang in their research mentioned that the spirit of Burmese nationalism, to be a Burmese is to be a Buddhist, has started from anti-colonial movement led by the Buddhist monk and religious organization like YMBA, Young Men's Buddhist Association. Anti-colonist motto called on the Burmans to protect race, language, and religions. Amyo Bata Tatana. The successive military regimes aim to assert Burmanizations. They attempted to assimilate all ethnic minorities into mainstream Burmese culture in order to create a single national identity, which is also known as the policy of 3 Bs. Number 1B is Burmans. All the race will be Burmans or Burmese. The second B is Burmese language, Burmese. Only Burmese language will be the official language and the only language for the whole nation in Myanmar. And the last B is Buddhism. Only Buddhism will be the religions of Myanmar. So we can see 3B movement led by anti-colonists. So the regimes, the military government maintain the movement of nationalisms into the form of 3 Bs, the policy of 3 Bs. All the people in Myanmar will be only one race, Burmans, and only Burmese language will be the language of Myanmar, the nation Myanmar, and only Buddhism will be the religions of Myanmar. So they attempted these Burmanizations during military rule in Myanmar. The movement of nationalism, which had been started since colonial period and maintained in the rule of military regimes in the form of 3 Bs policy, has come to be established now as the Organization for Protection of Race, Language and Religions right now in Myanmar. We called in a Burmese acronym MABATA. So it was established in 2012 and legalized, and it was founded by a Buddhist committee composed of 52 nationalist monks and led by a famous nationalist monk Wiratu. So the organization drafted the 4 major bills and proposed to the Parliament of Myanmar in 2013. The four bills were examined and approved by the Union Parliament in 2015 April, and it was signed by Myanmar President U Thein Sein in 2015 in August. Even though the 4 bills seems targeting to the Muslim group, it also have affected on Christian missions and Christian organizations. Therefore, the movement of nationalism has been maintained in different names and different forms and different ways throughout centuries till this present day. This nationalism defends and protects Buddhism while it marginalizes other minorities and minor religions in Myanmar. Therefore, this is the second major hindrance in the mission work of Myanmar. And what is the final one? The final one is the need to develop strategies, and methods. So what is the last hindrance? The last hindrance is the need